Hello, my name is Reem Alhashiem, a graphic design senior at Prince Mohammed bin Fahd University, and this is my Capstone senior project. So, my senior project revolves around the idea of branding a culture. I was mainly inspired by Middle Eastern countries, especially Saudi Arabia, in the way that we've been branding internally and externally for the past couple of years, which increased tourism as well as public investment. So I wanted to give or break that down into how a designer and a marketeer looks at branding, as well as how to incorporate these cultural elements without it being too stereotypical or just used for aesthetics. So in my means of breaking that down, I created the two branding books or two cultural books that are included in my book system. One is How to Brand a Culture, which is my means of breaking down cultural elements that anyone outside of Saudi or the Middle East would understand those key cultural elements and how they connect back to its people. And then the hybrid cultural model, in which we are applying these cultural elements without overly stereotyping and understanding how to incorporate the storytelling aspect of culture throughout, as well as examples of how it has been implemented. And at the end, it's all incorporated into a fake city. So the design overall, I focused it more on implementing a very minimalistic color palette with pops of color. And the colors were mostly inspired by the fake city that is to be mentioned at the end of this presentation. Considering that we are breaking down culture, I used elements that kind of encapsulated the idea of breaking down, including the bitmaps that are used in the subsections for these chapters or the chapters of the book. Considering a book design and a book layout requires a lot of elements, I also wanted to incorporate a layered effect, which we would be tackling a core subject but going down to its bare minimums. So each chapter has 3 subsections in which one can get to the introduction and then be introduced to all these subsections and introduced to them that way. And I also made sure to include certain pages that had visual references, considering the main audience for this book are international designers and marketeers. And throughout the brand applications, I made sure that the branding of the book is at the forefront, not the branding of the fake culture, but they do come hand in hand, and that's where we go into the fake city and the fake country called Qarnas, and I wanted to make sure that every aspect of it comes from an ideology that exists in naming conventions, in the things that we usually relate to, so the ecology and then the main exports, and everything kind of going back to the idea of this is an actual place people live in. So I made sure to focus on key elements when it comes to design. When it comes to fake culture, first one is a symbol, because Middle Eastern cultures usually have a tendency of having a forefront symbol along with its flags to represent them, and I did so in this means by including the old symbol or the original symbol as well as the more modernized version. I also wanted to make sure that there is a maintenance of heritage throughout, because a heritage can also be a means of evolution, but also a means of sustenance. So having both is really important. And I focus a lot on governmental stationery, because you can always see the culture from the way that its government interacts with its people as well. And at the end is postage, which is the most artistic. This is a means of communication, has always been a means of communication, and we get to be quite creative with our postage. So I wanted to represent that as the final evolutionary aspect of the hybrid cultural model. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for listening.